Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. This is Carmen with Elemental Designs. So we're going to be continuing. This is part 2 of the process video for the Burlap Spine Lapbook. And here what I'm going to be doing is implementing an additional fold-out page just so that I can go ahead and add my envelopes, which is what I'm going to do with this part of it. I'm going to be including my envelopes on this flap. So what I have done is I have added I've gone ahead and added some double-sided tape on one of the pieces of scraps that I had, and I'm going to turn this into like a fox type of washi tape, if you will. And I'm going to use this to bind my page, the new page that I've created. And this page is pretty much created in the same fashion that I've created the rest of this book, which is by taking an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock and just folding it in half. And I've scored it several times and just make sure that I can flip it easily back and forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this washi tape, if you will. And I'm going to add this to both sides. So as you saw me do, I pretty much folded it over, laid it on one side, added the washi tape, and then folded it over in order to cover that little folding area there. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side and pretty much use that. This is a very good way of using up some of those scraps. You can do this with pretty much, all different kinds of papers. There really is no actual kind of paper that you're limited to using. As long as your double-sided tape is good, then you're pretty much good to go. And you can pretty much stamp it, distress it. You could even create your own papers this way, your own kind of tapes, if you will, this way. I could have used masking tape or duct tape, but I wanted to keep it in the same form of what I've created already. Plus, I was already going to be adding some additional tape over that, some actual tape over that. So pretty much what I'm doing now is I'm just covering up this page because I did need to have that at least partly covered before I went ahead and added that tape on there, just so that I don't have to fiddle with it a little later on. So I'm going to be removing, and this is two strips of tape alongside each other. You might need more than that depending on the width of your tape, but 2 strips was pretty much good enough for me for what I needed. And then I'm going to do the same thing over and just wrap it around that fold and score it. This is going to mainly be for opening in one direction, but it's good to reinforce it, if you will. It's good to reinforce that because it is paper at the end of the day. And even though it does have double-sided tape, it's still paper. So in order to reinforce that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just wrap another clear tape around it, a glossy clear tape, just to make sure that that is pretty much good to go. And for this page, because I am going to be adding the envelopes, I didn't need to cover the entire page because the envelope itself is going to cover up most of that page. So I just covered the tops and the bottoms, and that's pretty much all that you're going to really see. And then I created the pocket that way. So here you see me just using some regular basic tape and just wrapping that around. This is a really nice high gloss kind of tape, and it was pretty much perfect. Width-wise, it was perfect. I didn't want to cover all of the paper of the washi tape. I just wanted to cover that seam right there in that center where it's going to be doing most of the folding. I just wanted to make sure that that was protected. I could have used, like I said, another kind of tape, but duct tape is a little too bulky. It's a little too thick, especially for the folding back and forth. And then masking tape, I also feel like it could be a little bit weak, and I just don't want it tearing afterwards. Plus, I didn't want to have to go through the ordeal of having to paint it or cover it or do additional things to the tape. The paper was nice and handy, so that's pretty much what I chose to do. But you can feel free and build yours with whichever materials you might have available. And this is more or less the essence of where it's turning into more of a lapbook. Because for me, a lapbook is something that you have to pretty much spread out in a wide kind of area. So when you open up a lapbook, you'll notice that it's extremely wide. It does open up. I've made them open up as far as almost 2 feet, like 20-something inches. So you can pretty much spread them out as wide as you can. And the good thing about this book is that in time, whoever ends up owning it, if they want to add additional pages, By looking at this tutorial, they'll find it very easy to do, and they can continue to enlarge it and add more pages and more flaps if they so see it fit, or leave it as it is, which is perfectly fine as well. And pretty much here I've glued on the first envelope. So you have a nice little spot there to add some cute little things, pictures, notes, just things that you might want to put away, um, all different kinds of things. Now I'm going to be decorating the second envelope, the second panel for the next envelope. And again, just using up some of my scraps. Most of these scraps are going to be turned into tags or other additional embellishments for this book. In this part of this video, what you're going to mainly see me do is adding this additional page for these envelopes, and you're also going to see me create a journal that's going to go in this so that you have a space for writing. And I might actually do one more just so that you have additional space for writing. And I think in the follow-up video, what we're going to be doing is adding more pockets and just more tuck spots, and adding further embellishments and decorating the covers, and also adding the closure, how we're going to be closing this lap book. So as you can see by the tutorial that I've created, you don't necessarily need to use a folder or have folders to create them. You can also create them using regular cardstock or any kind of cardstock that you might have available. Recycling cereal boxes, packaging, and things of that nature are a great way to get these started, as they're nice and sturdy, and you don't have to necessarily go out and buy anything additional. You can also turn this into a junk journal style, lap book or journal if that's what you wish to do. Or you could turn this into your traveler's notebook. That's also something that you can do with this, because again, it's slim enough that you can pretty much put it in most places. It is a little bit on the longer side, but if you're looking for something smaller, then you can just go ahead and measure out the size that you want, follow these instructions, and build it in any size that you wish. I plan to go a little bit more on the chunkier side than normal for this one, because I do really want to test just how much I can put in here. Plus, I also want to challenge myself, if you will, into making them a little bit more thicker than what I normally go for, and just kind of seeing the versatility of how much I can really do with these. So I'm creating now the beginning of my journal, which is going to be the journaling area for this book. So right there on that fold, I've gone ahead and added another strip of the washi tape that I've created. Paper tape, washi tape, it's all more or less the same. And I'm going to need to create another one, because I only had enough for the ones that I used already. So I'm going to go ahead and create another one. That's what you pretty much see me doing. It's just as simple as laying down your tape and pretty much trimming it down. If you want a more distressed look, then go ahead and tear that part away, because it should tear away rather easily, but you'll have a more uneven kind of look. I wanted this to really be nice and clean looking, if you will. So that's the reason why I trimmed it with a scissor. So removing all the excess, and just making sure that I can go ahead and fold that over. So after you do this, then just go ahead and fold your paper over once more, and just score it again, varnishing again with a bone folder or some kind of straight edge tool that you might have. So just kind of going through the notion here of how I'm going to decorate this, what kind of paper I'm going to use, and exactly how am I going to be attaching this to my actual lap book as it is. So I pretty much thought of the traveler's notebook and how we use elastics to include our journaling books in there. I know I have a few because I was gifted a beautiful one by my friend's mom to create. So keeping that in mind, I decided to go with the elastic. And I'm going to use the pink as it is, because the papers that I'm going to be covering the journal with actually do have pink on them, so it made my life a little bit easier. But in the event that I was, let's say, not to have the color that I needed, then I would just stain it or color it or paint it. So here pretty much I'm going ahead and I've decided on this telephone paper, which is really cute and kind of vintagey. And I'm going to pair that up with another designer paper for the inside and the outsides of what's going to be my journal. Well, what's going to be the journal, not my journal. whoever ends up owning his journal. Um, but I decided to pair it up with these colors because it goes with the theme of the other colors that I have chosen already, to pair this up with. As we speak, I've already printed out some sheets, which I'm going to be utilizing in the next video. And this is going to include most of the ephemera pieces, and we're going to be assembling some embellishments and things that are going to go ahead and be placed on a lot of the pages, and also create some more envelopes, different style envelopes and tuck spots. So I'm using my glue to cover this in, and even though I am going to be covering up most of that washi tape that I created, I'm going to be covering most of that up. I didn't want it to look black in the center, so that's the reason why I put that down. It just adds more to the book itself. And yes, you guys, I am struggling with my glue. And I just wanted to do a quick disclaimer now that I see this happening. They have changed the formula to the glue that I always purchase at Dollar Tree. I don't know if I mentioned this in another video or not, but I'm really not happy right now with the quality of the glue that I am buying at the Dollar Tree. And you guys know I've been using that glue for a long, long time. And I left this part in so that you guys can actually see the struggle. The struggle is real right now. It's doing things that it's never done before. It's becoming really thick, and kind of gloopy. And again, that's not something that I did before. The original formula for the glue that I used to use before from Dollar Tree, which is the embellishment glue, it never did that. So buyer beware now, because like I said, they've changed it. The color on the glue itself when you purchase the bottle has changed a little bit. If you see that it's a little yellowish, don't buy it. Literally, don't buy it. And I won't be buying it unless unless the glue is white and you can see it that it's white. Don't purchase it, because either the glue is going bad or something is happening here. So they also sell this glue, the embellishment glue, at Dollar Tree, and I've seen it at Dollar General as well. So if this glue is something that you must have, like I know for me it's a must have, it's going to cost you a little bit more, but it's definitely worth it. Or you can just stick with the Aliens, which is what you see me using here. It's the tacky glue that I've used before. And even though, it wasn't always my go-to glue, it's becoming my go-to glue now because they've changed the formula. So, yes, you guys, I just wanted to let you guys know that real quick, because you know that I've been a very big promoter of the embellishment glue from Dollar Tree, but I don't want you guys to buy something that is not going to be good. So just be aware when you go, if you see it and you're going to buy it, just make sure that the glue is in yellow. And yeah. So the covers are almost done, and I'm just pretty much doing it. And again, the measurements for this are the same measurements as you use for everything else. So it's the 4 1/4 by 11, and that should pretty much be enough for you to cover your panels with, and just remove any excess that you may have with your scissor, and you'll be good to go. I've had to do a little bit of trimming here and there, but nothing too major. And just embellishing my edges so that I mean not embellishing, I'm sorry, distressing my edges so that I don't have none of that white sticking out. So here I'm going to be creating some pockets that I'm going to be inserting into this journal. So I went ahead and used one of my paper shapers, right? You guys know what those are. You see it right there in my hands. And I've pretty much created 2 pockets out of 1 envelope by using that. And I've gone ahead and also done the same thing with some cardstock that I'm going to be using to reinforce the insides so that the paper is not flimsy, because these are just general type envelopes, and the quality of these envelopes can vary from really well made to cheaply made. And I just want to be sure that, when you put your tags in and out repeatedly, you're not going to have an envelope that's going to fall apart on you. So reinforcing that, and I'm going to do the same thing to both sides. And normally I would decorate the insides of my pockets, but because I added this reinforcement, I didn't really see the need to add another layer of paper in there to decorate it. So I think that this should pretty much be fine. And just trimming off some of the excess that I left behind, just making sure that it fits in properly, and gluing them down and securing them down nicely. Depending on how intricate your paper shapers are, you might have to do a little bit of fidgeting here and there, but it should work out nicely for you. And if you are going to use a thinner envelope, then just create yourself some reinforcements like I have here and glue them on the insides so that your envelopes are nice and sturdy. I'm also going to do the same thing with the decorative paper that I'm going to place on the outside. And again, not only does it provide decoration, but it also gives it more stability, it gives it more durability. Plus it makes it cute. And I hope that the fast process of these videos are okay. I hope they're not too fast where you cannot see necessarily what I'm doing and it's a blaze. But in the event that you find yourself stressing out over how fast these videos are, then by all means, feel free to go ahead and just slow the video down by hitting the settings and just lowering the speed uh, from where it's at now to just something less, and that'll slow it down for you. So now that I've got my two pieces, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing and process those so that I can go ahead and create the covers. I'm going to be adding an additional pocket to these envelope pockets, and you'll see how I do that in a minute, in a few seconds actually, after I get this done. So now that I have my pieces, I'm going to go ahead and just glue those on. And again, just using my scraps to do this. You don't necessarily have to always put out a brand new page unless that's something that you wish to do. Scraps are a great way to create envelopes and pockets and just different little tuck spots for your projects, especially for these kinds of projects. So I'm going to glue that on. I'm only going to do that on one side because the other side is going to be glued onto the book itself. And I'm going to be placing one on each, on each pocket. I'm going to have them both facing the same direction once I glue them in, but if you want to have them facing in opposite directions, just do the same thing on the, on the opposite side on the other envelope. And you'll have pockets that face different directions. I'm okay with them facing the way that they're facing for now. And I did go ahead and add this on, or at least process this a little bit crooked once I laid this on, but I'll fix that easily with a little piece of scrap that I'm going to add on the other side of the same paper, and you won't even be able to tell. If that does happen to you, you can always do that, or you can always add an extra level of embellishments on the little area that's a little off. That does kind of happen sometimes when you are paper crafting. So we're almost done with this part. Now I'm going to go ahead and find the additional, which is why I didn't go ahead and cover the whole envelope, because I knew I wanted to just create an additional pocket, an additional area for additional things that you want to put away in there. And I'm going to glue that area, that flap down, so that it's nice and secure, and so that it has a nice little border around it. And very, very simple, you guys. Very simple. And these are all leftovers from when I created my panels, and they were the perfect size. So just folding it over on both sides and the bottom so that I can actually enclose that, and I'm trimming off the corners so that I can pretty much fold that over in a nice and neat fashion, and everything looks very well done and is nice and neat, which is the most important. So now we have two pockets there, and that pocket is ready to go. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to measure them together a little bit just to make sure that I do lay it out as evenly as possible. Here I am like, okay, what am I going to do to that white edge? Because you can definitely see it even through the video. And so I found another piece of scrap that fits perfectly because it's from the same paper collection. It's from the same paper, actually. And I'm just going to glue that on. I'm going to be distressing the edges on this anyway, so overall it's going to be covered up. And that maneuver didn't work, so I'm just going to trim it off with a scissor. And this is all kind of trial and error, you guys. I've been working on these. This is something that I actually just started this year on a more time-consuming basis. I used to do a lot of flip books when I first started. So I'm using a lot of that knowledge from creating those flip books into making these lap books and these journals. because in my mind they're very similar in process, at least in the way that I create them as it was anyway. So I just pretty much use a lot of that information into these lap books and these journals that I'm creating. So it was a fairly easy kind of transfer over, if you will. And again, it also does give me the break of every now and then when I don't feel like painting or I'm not in the mood to paint, then this is definitely something that I do thoroughly enjoy. So I just go into, my bookmaking and journal making, lap book making little situation here, if you can call it a situation. Um, it's a happy little endeavor, if you will. So now I'm gonna glue this in. I'm gonna glue this in nice and secure so that it doesn't fall off, it doesn't move around. And I could have added an additional pocket, so it would have been like a three pocket kind of, tuck spot, but I prefer to glue it all the way down and just make that pocket completely secure, just so that it doesn't end up popping off of the edges or anything like that. So I just glue the entire thing down. And as you can see, they're both kind of facing in the same direction, but again, I'm okay with that. If you want them facing in opposite directions, then just do on one side, on one envelope, and then do the same thing, but on the reverse side on the other envelope, and you'll have them both facing in opposite directions. And this is pretty much done, you guys, at least this part of it. So now I'm going to work on the papers, and this is just basic printed paper, but you can add any kind of paper that you want. You can also go ahead and tuck in maybe some dictionary pages or some other vintage pages in between, and you can make this as bulky as you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and I'm using 7 pages, 7 copy paper pages. Say that 5 times fast. And I'm going to use that for the creation of my journal. I'm going to glue each page into the next page. So you're going to see me pretty much do that. I normally don't do staples for the most part, usually because it's really hard to get the staples in there. As far as, just the mechanism of it all is a little bit complicated. So I usually just glue them in one into the next. And if your paper is smaller, you can do a cascading effect, which is something that I've done before in order to equal the length of your journaling area. So you can put a whole bunch of smaller pages and just cascade them down. Glue one a little bit lower than the next one, a little bit lower than the next one, and all the way down until you've created the width and the length of what you need. So here on the last page, which is the 7th page, I'm going to put these 2 little books that I've created, and I'm going to put these 2 little books inside of there. And I'm not going to be gluing this in, you guys. I'm going to be using an elastic to kind of hold them in place. So I didn't want the edges to be so straight, so I found one of my decorative little punches here, and this is a Fiskars, and it's got like hearts all the way across. It's got like a cute little heart border. And not only does it do that, but it also trims a little bit of that paper off the edge because it is exactly the same size. You want it to be a little bit less, a little bit shorter on the edges than the actual, cover of your book, so that way the pages kind of tuck neatly inside. So I've done that to all the pages. So now this is now nicely decorated and covered. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab an embossing folder. Yes, I'm going to grab an embossing folder, and I'm going to do not necessarily embossing, but I don't know if you guys have ever grabbed a penny or a coin and put it on a paper and grabbed the pencil and kind of rubbed your pencil over it to get the image to transfer over. Well, that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm transferring some of that image so that it kind of shows through. And I'm doing that sporadically here and there, and I'm doing that 2 pages on, 2 pages off until I get to the back. And it's light enough that you should still be able to write anything you want to write on it. But at the same time, you have a little bit of detail, a little bit of something happening on that page, so it's not so plain. And you do have to kind of like apply some pressure on here. So yes, but overall, pretty cool. I really like the effects of it. And here I'm just trying different things. Now, what you see me using here, this is actually one of those nail foams, and it's a square. And I have to give the credit to Bohemian Crafter, who is the person that I saw using nail file. Everybody's always asking her, like, what is that blending tool that she uses, because it's a square. I've never seen nothing like that before. And fortunately enough, she actually let us know that what she was using was a foam, was a, the nail file. So I was like, what a cool idea. And it's also nice and squishy, so it doesn't hurt your hands so much when you're using it, plus it's a little bit bigger. The only thing that I have to say is that it does apply the ink extremely, extremely dark. So in order to get that to be a little bit lighter, which you guys kind of saw there that I made a little bit of a mess on one of them. Well, not so much of a mess, but the ink went on a little darker. You kind of have to blot off some of that excess ink because it does kind of rest on the top of the foam. It doesn't necessarily penetrate in like it does with like your foam applicator. It just kind of rests on top, and so all that ink kind of goes on there directly. So that's why you see me kind of, inking it up, but at the same time blotting some of that ink off. And I ended up using an ink block to kind of, blot off that excess ink. And at the same time, it made it really cool because it became kind of like a little palette for me, and allowed me to apply the ink a little bit lighter, which you'll see me do that in about a second or two. This is like a work in progress. This is the first time that I did this. Because again, I just wanted to see, like, just trying out different techniques, different things. And I wanted to be able to transfer some of that image onto the paper without having to emboss every single one of those sheets, especially since the embossing folder is so small. And this way it gave me a teeny little bit of dimension, because you do kind of see a little bit of dimension on the paper, but at the same time I was able to incorporate the ink on it all in one shot. And it's a little bit faster than having to process, all 7 pages or even more if you end up doing more. And here I'm just playing around, and again, just passing the bone folder over just to see like how much of an impression I can actually get by doing that, if it makes a difference when I run the ink on it, so on and so forth. And one little tip that I'm going to give you, if you are going to use the foam piece, and you saw how that foam piece just broke off, do not remove the panels that are on the side. Leave those panels there. Just remove a teeny little bit at a time, as you see fit or as you need, because it will kind of rub off. It will wear out. It will wear itself out little by little. Don't remove the whole thing like I did. It kind of just ripped right off. So I have to go get some more. I have to get some more now, you guys. All right, so I'm using this pink elastic to kind of secure my little book in place. I think I'm going to create one more of these books, which you might or might not see me do on the next video. It all depends. But what you will most likely see me do on the next video is actually decorating these a little bit further. The next video is going to be more about embellishing and adding more, like I said, more pockets and more areas to put away things. And I think it definitely needs, just because of the size of it, I think it does need at least another journaling area in this book. And because it's got the elastic, it's very easy to pass through. And because the book is not permanently glued onto the cover, it can always be replaced with other papers later on. Once you run out of paper, you can always add more. So little by little, this book is definitely coming together, you guys. I'm super excited to see what the final result is going to be, because I still don't know. As for most of you guys that watch me, know my channel, you guys know that I work kind of, at the heat of the moment. I don't normally like to plan because my plans never come to be. So I just kind of do things on a whim, and I create as I go. Whatever pops into my head at that moment in time is usually what ends up happening and going down. So the paper, the punch kind of ripped a little bit of the paper there because I guess I double punched it by mistake. So I'm just adding a little bit of an embellishment on two of those pages, two of those little sections there, and I'm gluing that on. But again, that's just an additional embellishment, and all the other pages do seem to be fine. But at least that way, that little area is nice and secure, and it's good to go. This is just an extra detail. The next book that I create most likely won't have this extra detail on it, or it'll have something different than what I've created on this page. So now we're on to this part of the cover, and again, just reinforcing all of it. I always like to just make sure and go back and forth and just check everything over and over and over again, just to make sure everything is nice and glued down. So this is the last page that I pretty much have to cover up, at least for this part of the video. and I'm going to be creating a little bit of a tuck spot on this page. So that's kind of what you see me doing here. This paper is a little thin, so I just grabbed pretty much another piece of scrap that I had there. It's just some more of that black cardstock, and I'm going to glue that right on the top of what's going to be the opening for this little pocket here. And I'm just going to create a nice little pocket all the way across, where you can just slide anything in, be it a tag, a photo, a note, or whatever it is that you wish to add in there. And all you have to pretty much do is just glue the sides and just glue the bottom, and you are good to go. And I really do recommend that you guys use good glue if you're going to be creating these kinds of things, um, because the other glues, like I know for me, glue sticks never really work well. The things just kind of fall off, so I just don't really use it much, unless it's for something that I know, it's okay if it falls apart. But for the most part, I do try to use really good glue, or as good a glue as I can possibly get anyways. Um, Something that's going to hold over time. And here I'm going to cover up the next page, and let me just look at my book real quick and see what I did there. Okay, so pretty much the next page is just going to be a decorative page. I still have to add some elements to that, so we'll see what I come up with. That's going to be fully done by the next video. Pretty much what I did is I just kind of folded it over this paper and just pretty much did a cute little edge on it. And I'm distressing that edge, and I'm just going to glue it flush down, and then we'll see what I do on the next video. So I do hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope that you guys, found it interesting, useful, so on and so forth. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, then by all means, please do so. Stay tuned for part 3. I'm going to be working on that part now. And yeah, you guys, I hope you liked this video. Give it a thumbs up. Definitely leave your comments, your feedbacks, any ideas or suggestions. If there's anything in specifics that you would like to see me do regarding these projects or anything else that I have done, then by all means, let me know. If you are not aware, there is a part 1 of this video where I created this book. So if you haven't checked that out, then by all means, go ahead and do so. This will be available for sale once it is all completed. And yeah, you guys, I hope that you have enjoyed this. Have a wonderful, wonderful time, and I will definitely catch you guys on the next one. And until then, happy mixing, everybody. Goodbye.